Hi, and we're back to talk to our special guest, real estate lawyer, Mark Weisleder. Hi, Mark.
Hello, Carmela. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, great, great. What is going on in the market today? Are sellers trying to cancel deals and get more money?
If I could summarize the GTA market right now, Carmela, one word: greed.
Yes.
That's it, greed. Sellers, if they think there's somebody out there willing to give them more money, they will cancel a deal if, for example, the deposit is 20 minutes late. They will cancel the deal and sell the property to somebody else. And it's not just private sellers. I'm noticing that even builders, you know, they sold a house maybe a couple of years ago. Now it's worth a lot more. If the buyers aren't ready with their money on closing, they will cancel the deal and keep the deposit and sell it again for more money. So buyers have to be so careful that, you know, they satisfy everything in a timely manner, or they can have the deal, even if they win a bidding war, they can still lose.
They can still lose, yes, if they're not on time with all their documents, right?
That's right. You know, I can tell you that I had a seller, Christmas Eve, canceled the deal on a buyer because they were a few hours late on a deposit, just to sell it to somebody else for $5,000 more.
Wow.
On Christmas Eve.
Wow.
And they didn't care, and the buyers were heartbroken, but the seller had the legal right to do that. And so that's what I'm noticing in the market today.
So deadlines are really important. For instance, most people don't put too much emphasis on the deposit deadline, but especially nowadays with multiple offers and 20 bidders on a property, it's very important to get your deposit in on time, right?
In bidding wars, a lot of sellers are demanding the deposit check right up front with the offer. So you come with a bank draft right to the offer, and then it's not an issue because you've given it. But otherwise, you have to come up with the draft within 24 hours of acceptance. That's not 2 days, that's 24 hours. So if it's accepted at 9 o'clock at night, you better come with your draft by 9 o'clock at night the next day, or otherwise the seller can cancel the deal. So as an example, let's say you signed the deal on a Friday night. You have to have the money in by Saturday night. You don't get till Monday. So that's why you've got to be very diligent about satisfying these things in time.
Yeah, and don't ask for an extension, whatever you do. And the same with pre-construction. Don't ask for an extension. Be on time with your deposit, because they can actually forfeit your deposit and sell the property for $100,000 more to another buyer, because that's how much it'll appreciate in 2 years.
When you buy a home from a builder, you have to wait till the house is ready before you can close. And usually, while it might take them a couple of years to build, that time from when the house is ready until you have to close is not a large amount of time. So you have to have your mortgage arranged and all the cash arranged to close that deal when scheduled, or else that builder can say, you're not ready, I'm keeping your deposits, and I'm going to sell it to somebody else for a lot more money. And I have seen that happen in practice. More on detached houses and condominiums. With condominiums, I'm finding builders might give you a break of a few days if you need an extension, but with a detached house, have your money available.
Yeah. There's also a problem with financing conditions, and not only the deadline on a financing condition, but people are forced now in multiple offers to go in without the condition, without the financing clause, and this can pose a risk. They think they're pre-approved, but are they really pre-approved?
Right. Most buyers will get pre-approved. The problem is that the pre-approval says right in it that we have to be satisfied with an appraisal on the property. When you get into a bidding war, you're going to bid above asking. And then the bank, when they come into to do the appraisal, they may not agree with the amount you paid. So you paid $700,000. The appraiser says, you paid too much. You should have only paid $620,000. Well, now they're going to base their mortgage on $620,000, and you're going to have the difference between $620,000 and $700,000 to close your deal. And I've had a few deals not be able to close because of that. In some cases, they've been able to go to family and friends to borrow the extra money, but this is the risk. And unfortunately, in a bidding war, you have no choice but to take the risk. My advice there is always have an extra 5 to 10% of the down payment in reserve, just in case this happens to you.
Right, right. Because once you firm up on that deal, you can't get out of it.
That's right. And then you could forfeit the deposit and all those other terrible things that happen.
Right. I suppose you might need a line of credit to make up the difference if it, you know,
usually
if you
it's
can't get money
family
from
and
your
friends
family
that
and friends.
that have to help you out with something like that.
Yeah.
So be prepared for
Yeah,
this.
so this overinflated prices are a problem when they don't appraise.
That's right. And when you just think about the definition of an appraisal, what's an appraisal? It's what a willing buyer will pay to a willing seller with no pressure. But a bidding war is always pressure on the buyer. And this is why the appraisal will almost never be exactly what you paid for it. So you have to guard for that and just have some money in reserve. That's the best advice I give to my clients.
What about a seller? Can they get out of the deal if the money is not delivered to the lawyer by 5 p.m. on closing day?
Under the terms of the contract, the buyer lawyer has until 6 o'clock to get the money to the seller lawyer trust account. At our firm, we transfer all the money electronically, so we can usually, as long as we have the money, we can get the money there in time because we can do it through an electronic transfer right into the trust account. So even though the registry system closes at 5, the contract does give the buyer lawyer up until 6 o'clock to get the money into the seller lawyer's office or into their trust account. If they're late, then they have to ask for an extension, and the seller does not have to agree to that extension.
That's right, that's right. There's another problem there.
Well, when it's a real problem, Carmela, is if you try to buy and sell a house on the same day.
Yes.
I always advise against that.
Yes, that was my next question.
Yeah, because the thing is, you can't close your purchase until you get your money from your sale. And if, let's say, the buyer is also selling a house, and now we're getting close to 6 o'clock and there's no money, you're back to asking for an extension. I always say, close your purchase a few days early. Get a bridge financing. It might cost you a few $100s. That's all. Close your sale a few days later, and you'll never have that problem.
Yes, yes, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I like to tell my buyers, especially if they're not buying and selling on the same day, then they have no choice.
Yeah.
Check the house when we close the deal. Go to the house that evening, check everything, move in the next day. You know, don't be in a rush on top of everything. But sometimes you have no choice if you're buying and selling on the same day.
Okay, so thank you very much. We're going to be right back after this commercial to talk to Mark about some more real estate legal issues. Hi, and we're back with Mark Weisleder to talk about some more really interesting legal real estate issues. Now, most people, sometimes when they move out of a house, they leave a lot of their own junk, well, I don't say junk, but some belongings behind that they don't want. Can the buyer sue for the removing of the cost of these items?
The seller calls them presents.
Yeah.
Everybody else would call it junk. We try to tell the buyers to remove as much as they can to the curb because the city will pick up a lot of it, but if they undergo expense to move the stuff out, the seller has to pay them back for that.
Yeah, that's right. But sometimes they can come to a mutual agreement without...
The best thing is to just pay for it. So, you know, get an estimate. That's what I always say. Get an estimate what it's going to cost. We'll send it to the other side. They send a check, and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. So try not to leave anything behind when you move out of a house. Vacant possession is the best. Deposits. Now, sometimes conditions aren't satisfied, and the deposit has to be released through a mutual agreement. What do you think about that?
Well, this is creating issues in the marketplace because what happens is typically there might be a home inspection condition and the buyer's not happy with the home inspection.
Yeah.
So he says, I'm canceling the deal. Seller's not happy because it's been a bidding war. He lost all these other buyers, and he doesn't believe maybe that the buyer is acting in good faith. Like maybe the buyer's canceling for other reasons, like they don't have enough money. Now the seller's in a pickle because he's lost all his buyers. So he says, you know what, I'm not going to sign the release.
Right.
So that could
Gets
be a
emotional.
$25,000 or more deposit sitting in a brokerage trust account. And the buyer now doesn't have access to that money to buy another property. And the seller, theoretically, could still sell the house, even though they haven't signed the mutual release, and then they're fighting over the deposit.
With a clause in the offer, right?
So there is a clause that some people are recommending to put in an offer now that says if the buyer doesn't satisfy the condition, the seller will automatically give him back the money without a mutual release.
Right.
And the difficulty with that is then this basically allows every buyer to have buyer's remorse. Change your mind for any reason, you're getting your money back.
Right.
And so it's a difficult area. We're just seeing this. I think many sellers will refuse that kind of language. The best thing is for buyers to do a proper inspection, and then if they are canceling, be honest about the reasons, and then hopefully the release will be signed.
Right, right, right. So in some cases, agents should use this clause for
Well,
their
if you want to
buyers.
protect your buyer,
Yeah.
you'll see agents using this clause. But if you're a seller's agent and you see this clause, you have to explain to the seller what that means.
Right,
that
right.
buyer gets their money, no questions asked if they don't waive the condition. And
Right.
sellers, as long as they understand that,
Right.
it's okay. But it's going to make for a lot of difficult discussions usually at 11 o'clock at night.
Yeah, yeah. But in some cases now with this market, it's good for the seller too if they have 20 other bidders waiting. And I know they can always put a clause in the offer saying that this is conditional upon getting a mutual release. But you would rather have a firm offer and know that you can sell it to somebody
The
else.
seller can avoid all these issues with no conditions.
Right,
And that's
right.
why they don't allow conditions, so they don't even have to deal with it. As an example, with condominiums now, they're not allowing status certificate conditions. So buyers are coming to me before they even put an offer in, saying, Mark, can you review the status certificate for me so I can put in an offer without conditions? And I did 5 already this week because that's the market. Sellers are not accepting any conditions.
Right, right. So you're getting the status certificate ahead of time?
Yes.
Yeah, how fast can we get the status certificate now?
If you're a smart seller, you have it available before you even put the house on the market.
Right,
So it's
right.
available in electronic form, and you say to everybody,
Exactly.
here it is.
Yes.
Review it, bring in your offers tomorrow night.
Exactly. That's the
what
best
happens.
way to do it. Best way to do it.
Yeah.
The market is very, very...
If you're selling, that's my advice.
Yeah, it's very fueled right now, so you have to be on top of the game. What are the new land transfer tax rules?
Yeah, so there's new land transfer tax rules which show, which came into effect January 1st for the province and March 1st for the city of Toronto. Because as you know,
Okay.
in Toronto, you pay an extra tax.
Yeah.
So now it's much easier in Toronto. That extra tax is exactly the same as what the Ontario tax is. So once you know how much you're paying for the Ontario tax, you just double that amount, and that's your total taxes.
Oh,
So, but there's changes. So first of all,
What are
there's
the changes?
the first-time buyer rebate.
Yeah.
Went up to $4,000 in Ontario. It went up to $44.75 in Toronto. So now that first-time buyer gets a benefit. They get up to $4,000
Great.
in their first purchase. When they buy in Mississauga, Brampton, Vaughan, you pay 1 land transfer tax and you get 1 rebate of $4,000. But you must be a Canadian citizen or a permanent resident, and you may
Yes.
not have owned a home anywhere in the world.
Yes. Okay, that's great. That's great to know.
Now, as far as the rates, the government, you know, while they give you on one hand, they take away on another. So yes,
That
they
always the
did
case.
give this extra rebate to first-time buyers to help them a little bit, but they quietly increased the rates elsewhere. So as an example, if you're buying let's say a plaza or a apartment building or a fourplex, you are paying an extra $5 per thousand as soon as you cross the 400,000 threshold. And if you're buying a home or duplex over 2 million, you're
Yes.
also paying an extra $5
$5,000
per thousand. So I actually have formulas, which I'm going to put on the screen, which you can actually calculate exactly what the Ontario tax is going to be. So as an example, if your house price is between 250 to 400, you just multiply by 1.5% and subtract 15 1/4. $300,000 home, that's 4,500 minus 15 1/4, 2,975. And if it's between 400,000 and 2 million, you're just going to multiply by 2% and subtract 35 1/4. And if it's over 2 million, let's say you're buying a $3 million house, I can do it right in my head. 2.5% is 75,000 minus 13.5, so that's 61,475. Wow. This is the $1 million house in Toronto today. So the Ontario tax, if it was in Mississauga, would be 16,475. Vaughan, Mississauga, that's what you would pay for a $1 million home. If it's in Toronto, you double it. So now it's 32,900. That's what you would pay for a $1 million home, and that's not even the average price today in Toronto. Now, if you're a first-time buyer in Mississauga, you would get $4,000 off, so you would pay $12,475. If you're buying in Toronto, you would get $8,475, so you would pay $24,475. First-time buyer, $1 million home in Toronto, that is it. So if you use those formulas, you can calculate your land transfer tax, and just remember, in Toronto, you double it.
That's great information, and I suggest that everybody at home take a picture of their screen when the formulas come up so that you can actually process it and go over it at your own time, and then maybe even give Mark a call if you need any added information. He's here to help. In your opinion, what do you think is happening with the market? How long do you think prices are going to keep going up, and there's going to be buyer demand and low inventory and low interest rates? What's your take on that?
Well, I think that because it seems that everybody in the world wants to come and live in the GTA. Wherever they are, they want to come here. And there's low inventory because people don't want to sell. They don't want to pay a double land transfer tax. So they're staying put. So you have lesser homes coming on the market, more people coming into the GTA wanting to buy. Unfortunately, to me, that means that prices will still rise as long as interest rates stay as low as they are. And so you have a bit of a perfect storm here in the GTA.
You do, for sure. And thank you so much, Mark. We're going to have you on the show again because I've got so many other questions that I know the viewers want to know. And I appreciate all the information you shared with us today. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Carmela.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Capillaris Talk TV. I want to thank my guest on today's show, Mark Weisleder. It's been a pleasure to host him at the Rogers TV studio, and I hope you continue to tune in for more. As always, I look forward to my next conversation with leaders in our community about real estate and beyond. Until then, please check out my website at capillaris.com for more information. I'd also love to hear from you, so send me an email at info@capillaris.com. Thanks again for watching.